Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is serious. This might be the best accomplishment of the Trump administration during the first 6.5 months of his second term. We've got the new data. We've been talking about the best accomplishment has been the border encounters being at a record low. They're down 95%. That no new illegal immigrants. They've shut down the border. There's no crossings. It's amazing. How do we put that into an actual data set and really understand what's going on in terms of these historically low numbers? Well, here it is. This is something we haven't seen in at least 5 decades. Net negative migration. We may be dealing with net negative migration in the United States in 2025. That would be the first time there is a negative net migration, meaning more people being deported or removed from the United States than immigrating to the United States legally or illegally. There's more people leaving than coming for the first time in potentially 50 years. You can see that's what it says. At least 50 years. We're talking about down from 2.8 million in 2024. And that's with them underselling the total number of people that entered the country in 2024, because I'm sure it was a lot more than 2.8 million. That's just, they always underreport the illegal immigrants. And I don't even know the final numbers that Biden gave, but they even said, yeah, these are just wrong. I mean, it was about 10 million illegals over the span of 4 years. That's a low number. That it's like a liberal number, they say. So it was a lot. And so obviously immigration, it's a huge problem. It's really a long-term thing that has to be fixed with years and years and years and years of immigration freezes and deportations. And you take a look at the budget now. One of the things that's crazy, you look at some of these liberals, they say, well, there's no due process given to any of these people. To deport one person, this is what ICE said. It costs $20,000. We have a budget right now because of Trump's mandate. He was able to pass the big, beautiful bill. We have a deportation budget of $175 million. We are hoping, Trump set a quota of 1 million deportations per year. Biden let in 2.5 million. We're trying to deport 1 million. They're saying we're not being fair to the people. We are investing around $20,000 in staffing, in infrastructure, in building these facilities for these people. We spend $20,000 per one deportation potentially. And they still say we're not being fair. No, you would know if we were not being fair because we'd be deporting about 1 million people a month. That's when we're not fair. Then they talk about, oh, what about the court dates? You know, Obama deported hundreds of thousands of people without court dates because there's a difference between legal and illegal in terms of overall rights. And rights in terms of, you know, the legality of it. And so it's important to understand all of that. But this is a huge thing for Trump, and I think Trump really should focus on this. Now we've got the negative net migration. More people leaving than coming into the country. This is not something that's normal. It doesn't happen. 50 years, right? 50 years. If you know about U.S. immigration history, with the new Immigration Act in 1965, the Hart-Celler made it extremely hard to accomplish something like this because it opened up immigration into the United States for everyone. And then you've also got the illegal immigration. That's been a newer trend within the last 30 to 40 years. But this is what Trump really needs to focus on. And this CNN video, I'll play it right now. This talks about the tariffs and the deportations. Those are the two major things we're looking at right now when it comes to Trump and in grading both of these things. There's pros and cons. There's even Republicans that have said Trump needs to be deporting more people. Well, based off of the way in which we would deport people and how, you know, the United States government works and how we abide to a certain law, it's hard to deport hundreds of thousands of people every single day because of this in process. It's just a sheer numbers thing overall. There's ways to cut corners, but obviously Trump is not doing that. Liberals say he is, yes, because it costs $20,000 to deport a single illegal immigrant. Yeah, he's definitely cutting corners. Yeah, we have the biggest deportation. See, this is how ridiculous it is. Your administration let in 2.5 million illegals every year. We have the biggest deportation budget, and we might be able to deport 1 million. So we may be able to deport like 40% of the amount of illegals that you guys let in every single year, and you're still bitching about it, saying that, oh, you're not treating them fairly. Really? You can't win. The immigration game in the United States, I mean, something has to change. And it is changing, right? This is a net negative migration. So there's more people leaving than coming, if this holds. But let's see what this says here.
How about net migration into the United States? Get this, it's down. It's going to be down at least 60%. We may be dealing with, get this, negative net migration to the United States in 2025. That would be the first time there is negative net migration in this country in at least 50 years. We're talking about down from 2.8 million in 2024. So Donald Trump has always run on.
And that's an underreported number. Again, 2.8 million is that, what is the context of that? Are those numbers coming from the Biden administration and with how they count illegals? Are illegals being counted in that?
Tariffs, and he's running a hawkish line on immigration.
To be fair, I will actually say the illegal immigration did slow in 2024 because there was an incentive, because they knew that they were getting crushed on the immigration issue. So they really tried to hone in on that. So I will be fair on that with Biden. I'm just trying to give you a full picture. But I'm sure there were still more, but I'm just saying this is how fake these people are. They let everyone in 2021. Remember, the first day Biden came in, inauguration, he said, well, Trump's a racist. He's disgusting. We got to open up the border to everyone. These are too stingent of policies. The return to Mexico, it's all terrible. It's all racist. So they're the ones that wanted all the illegal immigration. They got their 5 million illegals per year. And then in 2024, they said, well, we're just trying to pass a bipartisan bill that included like $64 billion in aid to Ukraine and Israel. Remember that? Yeah, they don't like talking about that part of the bill. And then they said, well, Trump blocked the bill because he wants immigration to be a problem. Well, no, in 2021, you guys said that Trump was too tough and he was a racist and we need to let everyone in. So that's what you did. So that's your immigration policy. They need to own their... See, this is the other thing with these people. They constantly change because they know the electorate hated the immigration. So then they change and, I'm going to let this play. And then we'll talk.
And on both of those issues, we are seeing record high tariff rates for this century going all the way back, well back into the early part of the 20th century. And when it comes to immigration, net migration, we are seeing record low levels, way down from where we were during the Biden administration. We are potentially looking at negative net migration for the first time in at least 50 years. How about...
Yeah, and so when you talk about the tariffs, you have to say they have not been inflationary to a high degree at all. There is no actual proof that the tariffs, because that's all they talk about is how it gets thrown onto the consumers. There is no verifiable proof in all of the sectors combined, in the core inflation, in the true inflation. Look at the true inflation at under 2%, by the way. Yes, it includes energy. Technically, Trump doesn't really control that. Kind of. It depends, how much you want to give him credit for that. But it's more of a global entity. It's crude oil. But when you talk about the tariffs, you have to say, no, they have not been inflationary, because that's all they'll say is, oh, the consumers pay for it. It's all inflation. No, they have not been inflationary. There's no metric that shows, well, you know what? If we had a 9% inflation rate, I think that'd be inflationary. Oh, wait, that was the inflation rate under Biden. I'm sorry. I got it confused. No, the inflation rate under Trump is 2.7%. Under Biden, it was 9%. And so... And that was, by the way, another problem with the Federal Reserve not raising rates. So it's like the opposite now. They cut them to zero, and they should have been at zero in 2020, but you needed to raise them faster than they did, and it created massive inflation. And now they won't cut. We have inflation sitting routinely at like 2.5%. The true inflation's under 2%. They won't give us a 0.25 basis point cut. It's insane. And then how about all these economic experts? Well, you don't know. You have to understand the housing. And it's like, dude, if you understand the U.S. economy, there's always going to be an excuse not to cut. There's 1,000 indicators to look at. At the end of the day, you have to weigh the pros and the cons of a cut. And this is not just because I want a crypto bull run and this would help and things like that. I think it's going to happen either way. It's also would be good for the stock market, obviously, if we get a cut. But it's like, dude, it's 4.5% inflation rate. You really don't think we can get at least one cut or two? I mean, even the FedWatch tool was saying we would have at least one cut at like an 80% chance by this time, and it didn't happen. And that's with the inflation acting very normal. Now, people are saying, well, inflation is starting to go up. We don't see it in the truflation at all. We don't see it at all. That's an up to the minute. Now, we'll see what the rating is. I don't know if it comes out on like the 10th or the 11th, but with the tariffs, so the tariffs, I think you now look at it and they're saying, well, it's probably going to be around $40 billion in terms of tariff revenue. So, and that doesn't surprise me because they were at 32, 33 billion, and they have reinstated, Trump has reinstated many of these tariffs starting August 1st on a lot of countries. Now, whether or not those can be negotiated off, they possibly can. But I do think we are going to make more overall revenue because remember back, we were making no tariff revenue. Trump introduced the first tariffs on China. We end up making like 120, 130 billion dollars by 2022, 2023. The Biden administration doesn't take off any of Trump's tariffs from China. We're cashing in 120, 130 billion. Trump starts and puts on major tariffs on China, on Mexico, on Canada, and all these other countries, and now it's up to about potentially per year 350 to 400 billion. So we're talking about an increase within the past year or two of an extra $200 billion in overall revenue. That is not particularly inflationary, although even if it was inflationary, you can still very easily make the argument, and the argument is very simple. We need to onshore manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing jobs are significantly better for the middle class than retail jobs. We have a shortage of manufacturing jobs compared to when our middle class flourished. And now we're trying to bring the manufacturing jobs back. And the only way you can do that in a capitalist economy is to incentivize the companies to invest into the United States by forcing them to do so and saying, you want to get your stuff from China, you're going to pay tariffs. And the other crazy thing with the tariff situation, people don't know this. You know, China does want to stop and reduce their reliance on the U.S. consumer base as well. Both countries want to reduce it to a degree. So it's not even like we're these big, bad, evil people. We're trying to bring more quality jobs back to the United States. And like whether or not AI will take over a lot of those factory positions, the point is it would be more quality jobs. It is working in the, you know, the automotive business. There are a lot of jobs being onshore to the United States. And so that's the overall point with tariffs. But I think if it's immigration and tariffs, net negative migration, net negative migration, net negative, it's a big number. Or I guess it's not a number. It's a big, I mean, it is 60% down. There's a number. But it's a big, big statement to have something like that. 50 years. And you're talking about $400 billion in tariff revenue with no real inflationary act, or, you know, they're not inflationary to any crazy degree. That we haven't seen any data that says that. Yeah, the recent core inflation reading was 0.1% higher. With Biden, it's like, you know, 7 or 8%, but they throw a fit when it's 2.7%. And then they blame it all on oh, it's because of COVID. Yeah, well, when you pass these massive spending bills and you do a third stimulus check that's bigger than the first two, it's going to be a problem. But no, let's not blame them at all. And also the Federal Reserve keeping the interest rates at zero for too long. But no. So I would say these are two really big things that are very positive right now. Yes, we have to wait to see the lag effect on the tariffs and the potential of them being inflationary to a degree, although I think based on how Trump has deployed them, it's very strategic, especially these recent ones he's put on. We've got trade deals with all these major countries, and we have them at like a 10%, 15% tariff. So we're just taking a little bit off the top, and it's an equilibrium. And then, you know, there's been some negative stuff with the Trump administration and the Epstein thing and something. I mean, honestly, I forget what happened, but you know, something happened. But, you know, so there's positives, there's negatives, but this is very positive. This is the really core stuff that Trump had promised. And so it's net negative. And if this holds, I mean, this is great propaganda for Trump. Amazing. It is amazing. Now, I will also say when it comes to normie and the electorate and these people, a lot of people tend to forget about things like immigration and how important a strong border is when we actually have one. So it becomes not a big issue, which, you know, becomes a problem for Republicans because we want people to understand, no, it is very important to have a strong border. This is what you voted for, but it still needs to remain important because we know back in 2021, Biden came out and said, Trump's a racist for wanting to have a border. We need just a globalist cesspool, and we need all of the migrants and so many illegals, and if you deport any of them, you're racist, and that's what they said, basically. And so, you know, it's a big issue, but this is good stuff, and we'll see if this continues. Either way, guys, make sure you like the video down below. That's going to do it for this one. Also, follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.